Shalom Chavrim, I'm Steve Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live here with my wife, Yana Ben-Nun. We're at the Steve and Yana chat, and but I guess if I say that, I'm sure now the little spiders out there that Google has that are tracking every word we say, they probably have Steve and Yana as some kind of horrible entity to block immediately, silence, shut them up.
Well, we are on a red list. I'm sure.
Well, you know you're on the red list. In fact, yes. You know what? It's interesting you mentioned the red list. And we have a very special guest we're going to speak about here in just a minute. Deanne Loper.
Yeah, Loper.
And, but, you know, you mentioned the red list. And we were told we were on the red list when Obama was president, and it was one of his Secret Service agents that told me this. Well, that agent's wife has asked me to contact her.
When?
I just got the request. So I will be making a phone call here in the not so distant future. I'm curious as to know why.
Wow.
Anyway, without waiting anything else, that's the mystery begins of the broadcast today. Yana, can you introduce our guest today?
Yes, we have a very special guest today. Our sister in Christ. She's been sister in Christ for 31 years. Her name is Deanne Loper. Hello, Deanne. How are you doing? Are you here?
I am here, Yana. Thank you so much for having me on, both of you. Thanks.
Yes, and why did we bring this sister on? Well, this sister is an author. She wrote a book here that you can see, Kabbalah Secrets Christians Need to Know. In-depth study of the Kosher Pig and the gods of Jewish mysticism. Now, the reason that she wrote this book is she told me about a video it was a discussion on a Benny Hinn show. Rabbi Itzak Shapira was discussing his book that he wrote, The Return of the Kosher Pig, and I have this book here with me. I'll just show it to the people right here.
I better show it to them.
Yes. And you know, Steve, there is this Kabbalah, Talmud, and Zohar creeping into the Christianity through so-called Christian leaders like Benny Hinn. I don't know what is his
name. That's
right.
Rabbi Bernis. And the odd thing is I believe it's actually Rabbi Bernis that made a comment on the second book I wrote called Yam Suf.
Wow. And then we have, you know, of course we discussed Michael Brown, who is actually whitewashing Talmud, or he's a Talmud apologist. And I just heard that he even spoke about Kabbalah about a year ago, and he was speaking about it as not a big deal. So we are seeing that more and more Kabbalah, Talmud, and Zohar are creeping into Christianity, kind of like slowly, that nobody can notice how. And, you know, this particular Rabbi, Itzak Shapira, is talking about Yeshua being God in flesh, Jewish Messiah, and I am seeing even in the comments, and you will see Benny Hinn, everybody's so excited. The Jewish people are recognizing Yeshua as the Messiah. But if you really go into this book deeply, if you read this book, you will notice that it's filled with Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, and Sister Deanne Loper has written. Can you go back?
Yes, a rebuttal.
A rebuttal to the return of the Kosher Pig. Now, she has been studying Kabbalah for 10 or 11 years, and now it's probably time to really ask her to introduce herself. Sister, can you tell us about your experience with Kabbalah? How long are you studying Kabbalah, and why did you go into studying Kabbalah?
I was saved about 31 years ago. I was 24 years old when I got saved. And actually, I was raised in the church, got away from that, and went deeply into the New Age movement and other forms of the occult. So when I came to the Lord, I was 24, and I just had this hunger to find out what were the roots of the occult, and I saw that it was coming into the church, and I wanted to find out more about that. And I had, I guess, a God-given interest in prophecy, because I was raised in dispensationalism, which is like Schofield Bible teachings, pre-trib rapture teachings, just a lot of the stuff that's developed over the years into the church. And I don't believe any of that anymore. Mm-hmm. And so as I observed deception coming into the church, the Lord just kind of moved me into the area. He just kept leading me and leading me. There's other people, there's other Christians out there, and if you follow the trail of this, you're going to come to see what it really is. And it, at the root of it, of course, is Babylonian mysticism. Yes. And that is where Kabbalah comes from. That's all Kabbalah is. It's Babylonian mysticism.
Yeah, Babylonian Talmud, the soul of the Talmud is actually Kabbalah and Zohar, right? That's where the Noahide laws comes from, which we will come actually talk about that as well. But can you tell us, why did you write a rebuttal to Return of the Kosher Pig? How is Rabbi Itzak Shapira explaining Jesus as the Messiah?
Okay, I was actually working on another similar project, and I saw this video just pop up one day, and it got my attention because it said, I think the title was Shocking Interview of Rabbi on Benny Hinn. Mm-hmm. And so my first thought was, oh, wow, that's awesome. You know, a rabbi received Jesus. So, of course, I watched. Go ahead.
How exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it caught my attention. So I started to watch the video, and he said some strange things, but about an hour and a half into that, he said something really disturbing. He quoted scripture in Isaiah, and he said, when Yeshua comes back, he's going to come out of Edom and crush Edom. Some people might say it, Edom. And then he said that Edom is Christianity.
So basically, Jesus is going to come, Yeshua will come and kill Christians.
Yes, exactly. Right. And I was shocked at that. And I ordered the book. Mm-hmm. I had to know more. I read the book. Right. It's very technical, hard to read book, and I watched more videos. And the more that I listened, the more deep my concerns went. And I started really studying, and it was like I just set the other project aside and started writing.
Yeah, you know, I did order a book myself as soon as you actually pointed my attention to this particular book and a video on the Benny Hinn show. And I listened to the video, I ordered book myself. I had no time to read it all, I only read bits and pieces. And when I read just a little bit of it for now, I mostly read your book, your rebuttal to it, and you are writing in your rebuttal pages where, you know, you're referring to Rabbi Shapira of where he's writing things like Jews are the people who have divine spark, right? Like they're divine. And then he's also writing about how we are not to dismiss the Talmud. I mean, he does write some things that not everything in the Talmud is correct, but we are basically not supposed to dismiss the Talmud and Kabbalah, but he's actually praising a lot of Kabbalists and rabbis that are Kabbalists. So can you tell us, because you read the book and you actually wrote a rebuttal, can you tell us, like, for example, about Metatron? What is he writing about Metatron?
Okay, I had done some research over the years about the angel Metatron, and you are right. Rabbi Shapira says that we should actually treat those extra-biblical sources with respect. Mm-hmm. And so he, at one point, I think he does a whole chapter on Yeshua being Metatron. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's incredible. Because Metatron is, I classify Metatron as a fallen angel. Right. He's written extensively about in Kabbalistic writings and in even the Talmud and in the third book of Enoch. So in Kabbalah, Metatron he's like the gatekeeper. They call him he's the one that gives knowledge, and he's called the lesser Yahweh, YHVH. The Tetragrammaton is his other name, and Metatron has 72 names, and he holds the keys of knowledge, and he sits in the middle of the Sephirot tree. We can go into the Sephirot tree, because I saw that Shapira was including illustrations of the Kabbalah tree of life, which is really the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the Sephirot tree. So Metatron's cube is the six-pointed star, and it's the hexagon. And so maybe I could just read you like one quote here. Mm-hmm. This doesn't exactly touch on Metatron, but it does. This is from the Zohar. And Metatron's cube there's like 7 doorways that you have to go through to ascend the Sephirot tree of knowledge. Because in Kabbalah, this is why I wrote the book. I want Christians to understand that the God of the Babylonian Talmud and today's rabbinic Judaism and Kabbalah is not the God of the Bible.
That's true. Very true.
When I was growing up, I mean, all I ever heard, and when I got saved again, oh, Jesus is coming, and it's the second coming for Christians. It'll be the second coming of the Messiah, but because the Jews didn't receive him, it'll be the first coming for them. It's not the same at all. So creation, redemption, everything is different, and that's why I wrote this book.
Yes, and you are correct, sister, because about 99%, I would say, of Christians or Zionist Christians or Christians in general, they think that Jewish people whose religion is Judaism and adhere to Judaism and rabbis, that they are just pious, religious people who study Old Testament, right? That's the Torah, that they think that Torah is just an innocent Old Testament. And they have no idea that they study Talmud, that Talmud reverses the Old Testament. Every time it cites it, it reverses it and perverts it. And that the soul of the Talmud is actually Kabbalah and Zohar, which is Jewish mysticism. And like you said, the God of Judaism is not God of the Bible.
Well, I'm going to give everybody a shocker. The creation myth. Okay, Paul the Apostle said, do not give heed to Jewish fables. Right. In the creation myth, there's a God above Elohim. Elohim is the God of Genesis. That's the God that we Christians believe in. But in Kabbalah, the God above that is called Ein Sof.
Right.
And the Sephirot tree has, depending on which part of Kabbalah or which system of Kabbalah you're into, it can have 9 or 10 spheres. And at the top is Ein Sof. And he emanated through engravings and markings and seals. And you got to keep those words in your mind. Anytime you see that, the whole universe of Kabbalah has the engravings of Ein Sof, and it's connected to 6 and 666. So the first emanation from Ein Sof is Keter, and they also call him Adam Kadmon, and he's androgynous. This is not the first Adam. He's an androgynous God. These are all gods, and they call them gods, and they call them crowns and entities. And so he's male and female, and then from Keter comes Bina and Chokmah, and that's where you get the Chabad, Lubavitch.
Wow.
That's Chokmah, Bina, and Da'at. Da'at is formed under Bina, and that's the pit or the abyss. But Rabbi Shapira says in his book that Yeshua, or Bina, I may not be saying it exactly correct, Bina is a manifestation of Yeshua. Wow. But Bina is the feminine side of the Sephirot in self tree. Mm-hmm. She's a god. She's the mother goddess.
Right.
Sometimes she's called Ima. And then Bina, this is where it gets disgusting. Bina and Hakma have sex.
Right, right.
And then they keep producing, and that's called Heros Gamos, and they have sex all the way down. The last one is Malkut. The last sphere on that tree is Malkut, and that is earth. All the other spheres are in the spirit world. Malkut is in the physical realm. That's earth, that's kingdom, and that's Shekinah or Shekinah.
Right, right. Which is perversion of something. Like, Steve, you can explain. Like, Shekinah just is as indwelling of glory.
Yeah,
of
Shekinah
God.
means dwelling. It's a biblical word. I mean, it's many, many times in the Bible. But let me just, for those that are watching, at the top of the tree, which I have here on the screen behind us, you have Keter, okay? And at the bottom, of course, Malachot. Malachot is the kingdom, is literally what that is in Hebrew. Keter, it literally means crown, is what that means. And of course you have Bina, and different trees that you have different names on the tree. I can tell you that because I just know it. But then you have Chakama, as Deanne was saying. So just because you may not see on this particular image those names in that order, each one of these trees they put out there, different people have different images on there, or different names.
And and I don't want to interrupt you, sister, because you're doing such a good job in explaining such confusing subject and so foreign to Christians, because this is totally crazy, I had to read this several times just to understand what this is. But you know how everybody says that Judaism is monotheistic religion, that they believe in one God. But that's not really true. That's not really true. They have actually several gods, right? And lesser gods.
That is true. These, like I said, these entities are these spheres. They're called spheres or vessels of light, and they're actually referred to at times as kings or crowns, or there may be angels standing at each one of these, especially in the middle. That's where Metatron's cube is. Another interesting thing is the whole process of creation in Kabbalah is also called the divine lightning flash. And we can think of where Jesus said, I beheld Satan fall from heaven like lightning. So when Ein Sof had these emanations, it came down like a lightning flash. And what they say is those vessels could not hold the light of Ein Sof. And it gets really crazy. That's why it's all myths and fables. Yeah. But the vessels shattered, and that's where the divine sparks come from. And everything, the whole creation fell apart, and Adam Kadmon had to put it all back together. And Adam Kadmon then creates Adam of the Bible.
Wow.
And so at that shattering, they call it the shattering of the sparks. I just want to read a quote here, because Gershom Scholem, he says it much better than me, and I quote him quite a bit in my book. He was a philosopher and the first professor of mysticism, Kabbalah, at the Hebrew University. It was an actual course that they started back in the 50s, I guess. This is what Gershom Scholem says about this shattering of the sparks. The divine light is no longer in its proper place because the vessels were broken. There is nothing that was not damaged by the breaking. Nothing is in the place appointed for it. Everything is either below or above. So you hear that, as above, so below.
Right.
All being is in galut, and this is not all. Into the deep abyss there fell, as a result of the breaking of the vessels, forces of holiness, sparks of divine light. Hence, there is a galut, which is the diaspora or the dispersion. There's a galut of God himself, of the sparks of Shekinah. And these sparks are bound in fetters of steel. Now, when I read this, okay, and the Shekinah is in the abyss, waiting to come out. And she's not going to come out until she has enough people calling on her. And they call this critical mass. And when I read this, I think of Revelation chapter 9, mm-hmm. where the beast comes out of the pit.
Yes, and also when you talk about Revelation, because just studying this, and we are in the middle of studying this, which we will be bringing out, and thank you so much for explaining, because you are studying it for years and years, a lot longer than me, or even, Steve, but Ein Sof that you talked about, which is it's a supreme deity, right? Their God, Ein Sof, they call him Ein Sof. He's a God of forces. And in the book of Revelation, it says that the beast shall not consider the God of his fathers, but he instead is going to worship God of forces.
God of, yes.
Right? So he's going to be Kabbalists, or there will be, basically this Kabbalah is this movement, Jewish movement, to put entire earth into Kabbalah, to worship the Satan, the Lucifer, which is basically their God.
It is a huge global movement, and I have another quote by a rabbi in my book that he admits that it's a conspiracy and that they're unknowingly seeding not just Gentiles but Jews.
Yes.
So I discovered something that shocked me. As I was writing this book, I was reading a lot of different quotes and reading from the Zohar, and I read a rabbi's, what's his name? Michael Laitman, sorry, I have to think for a minute.
Yes, I know him.
Michael Laitman, you know him?
Yes, we know him. Not personally, but...
Okay, you know about him.
We know about him, sorry, yes.
He's got the largest Kabbalah website on the internet.
Yes.
At least that's what he claims. And he says that the whole world is one big ancient Babylonian family, and we have to get back to Babylon. We have to get back to the one language of Babylon.
True.
So then as I'm writing the book,
what he says.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
That, yes, I say exactly what you said, because I was on his website. He's the one who was speaking to IDF soldier, and he was telling them that Jews are not from this planet, that they're aliens and stuff like that. But yes, I think I actually have a video like this, so I know who you're talking about. Exactly, he's saying what you just said. Yes.
Well, he is listed in Itzak Shapira's Appendix of Rabbis.
Wow.
Now, as far as I know, I don't know for sure because some of these rabbis lived hundreds of years ago, but as far as I know, I don't know that any of them ever accepted Jesus. And Rabbi Michael Laitman is listed in there along with Yehuda Ashlag, and Yehuda Ashlag's son was Michael Laitman's kind of Kabbalist master. Michael Laitman studied under him. So you've got Yehuda Ashlag, his son, and then Michael Laitman, who were all dedicated to the global dissemination of Kabbalah, and Michael Laitman still is. And so I thought that's so strange that Rabbi Shapira would have him in his book. And they call it, what's going on right now, if you go to Laitman's website, or you can read Yehuda Ashlight's, I've got them both quoted in the book. There's something that they call the Horn of Messiah. Others call it the Harbinger.
Wow.
That might ring a bell.
Wow.
Okay, the Horn of Messiah is the global. It's the shofar that Elijah is blowing. Elijah, the word harbinger, always refers to Elijah in Kabbalah, but it's a different Elijah than we're thinking. And the horn of Messiah, or the shofar of Messiah, it's right in there. They tell you it is nothing but the global dissemination of Kabbalah, which will heal and correct the world, and it's the only thing that can heal the world.
Wow.
And he's quoted in Shapira's book.
Well, isn't that book Harbinger? I just know Jonathan Kahn writing this book, sister. Right? Didn't he write Harbinger?
If you thought about it seriously, I mean, think about what we're listening to over and over. And these are things that have been going on for years, and no one's paying attention.
It's like creeping in.
The most well-known, well-respected amongst, whether it be evangelicals, Hebrew roots, every single aspect, every walk of life of Christianity has its own mentor in the background, and they're all working together. And the thing is, they have slowly but surely, they have steered those of the faithful to Yeshua, to Jesus. They have steered them right into the path of these Kabbalistic Talmudist teachers.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what name it is. I mean, we're seeing names that I would have never dreamed that it would. I mean, you got Benny Hinn on there with Rabbi Bernis and this Rabbi Itzak Shapira. You have
Mark Biltz.
Mark Biltz
just will have
Dr. Michael Brown.
Sister Deanne, isn't Mark
Even
Biltz?
Perry Stone's name has been thrown into the ring. Because Perry Stone's really been big into bringing people to Israel, etc. And I'm not trying to throw these people under the bus, but it's just kind of strange that some of the most respected names of Christianity have forged relationships so deep with Talmudists.
Right.
We're supposed to be bringing them Christ, Yeshua.
Right. Instead, even though they talk about Yeshua, they're kind of creeping in such a way that people cannot even notice, and they're creeping in this Kabbalah into Christianity. And Sister Deanne, isn't Rabbi Itzak Shapira going to have a conference with Mark Biltz anytime soon, right?
I believe he is. I think it's, I don't know if it's either in June or July or something, and I think it's like in South America. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I believe they have ministered before. And then, the other thing, I was very concerned when I saw that Michael Brown endorsed Shapira's book.
Yes. Let's go back to the book, because I know we are kind of limited on time. We have only 1 hour. I am here looking into repairing the world. That's chapter 4 in your book. Let's talk about the secret law of Tikkun and the tree of knowledge. Okay. Tikkun is it means to repair. Mm-hmm. So, or to fix. We're going to fix the world. So after the vessel shattered, Adam Kadmon makes Adam. He creates Adam. And then Adam eats from the tree. But their doctrine is it wasn't really a sin. The sin wasn't that he disobeyed God. The sin was that he separated the tree of knowledge from the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil from the tree of life. And so we've got there's opposites, and we've got to get the world back in harmony. The worlds above have to merge with the world below, and that is through
tikkun, which is good works. And that is not only a way that they say that we're going to fix the world, but that's what our righteousness is based on. Whether if you're Jewish, you've got the 1600 or 613 laws, and if you're a Gentile, you've got the 7 Noahide laws, and we all have to do our part.
Yes, yes.
And in that chapter, I also talk about that they believe in reincarnation, and they even say that the patriarchs have been coming back in past lives, and they can come back over and over because they have a higher soul, according to Kabbalah and Talmud. But we are born from like a different sphere, and we're only allowed up to 6 reincarnations, and I believe it's from Metatron gives us those 6 reincarnations.
6 reincarnations for the Gentiles. You have only 6 lives to make yourself righteous, right? Before,
right, right.
And kind of interestingly, in a Kosher Pig, Rabbi Shapira also talks about Schneerson, and he talks about him, like, in few things, like he doesn't agree that he's the Messiah, like with the Chabad Lubavitchers, but he does agree he was a wonderful scholar and good man of God. Am I correct?
Excuse me, I know that he does mention that in there, and it's been a while since I read that, so I can't remember exactly what he says, but I mean, he speaks highly of all the rabbis.
Yes, all of these.
I mean, he's got a list of 70 in there, and some I've heard of. Isaac Luria. Isaac Luria is the father of modern Kabbalah, and he's the one that came out with the more his form of Kabbalah and the Zohar with the shattering of the vessels and the need to repair the world. That all comes from Isaac Luria, and it's the main kind of Kabbalah that's followed today. Through my research is what I found out.
Right. So basically the Tikkun Olam, which is repairing the world, don't they say that right now is the time, because it was prohibited for Gentiles to study Torah in any way or shape or form, but they're saying the time is now when it's time to disseminate Kabbalah among Gentiles as well. And they're saying that the Gentiles have a place in this Tikkun Olam, and they have to help the Jews to repair the world, and they have to help them through obeying Noahide laws and through servicing Jewish people, meaning because Gentiles apparently are from 3 evil spheres. They originate from evil spheres, and they don't have spark of God inside of them, just like the Jewish people do. They teach that Jewish people are divine, right? And
that's correct.
They are divine, and the way that Gentile can become righteous or have a place in the world to come is to obey the 7 Noahide laws and be basically slaves to the Jewish people.
That's exactly correct. And one of the central themes of my book, I did a rebuttal on Shapira, but I brought a lot more in just based on some of the rabbis that he was referencing. And I found a quote, I found a prophecy. And this is the time that we're in right now. And this is from the Zohar. And this was kept secret. Just like Leviathan, there were secrets of Leviathan that were kept secret. The secret about the tree of knowledge coming back, the knowledge is going to be restored by the kosher serpent. But this prophecy right here is from the Zohar. It says, in the 600th year of the 6th millennium, the gates of wisdom above, together with and that's Kabbalah, together with the well springs of wisdom below, that's science and technology, will be opened up, and the world will prepare to usher in the 7th millennium. And that's where they say we're in right now, because the 600th year of the 6th millennium, according to them, was the year 1840. around the time of the Industrial Revolution when the technology really started to accelerate. And so we're in the footsteps, and that's why we're seeing so much of this, the Kabbalah, the Tikkun, the Noahide laws.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and it's see, redemption is a process.
Yes.
And one thing that Shapira says, it's redemption. This really upsets me when he says this, because I'm a born-again Christian, and I know that you are born again, and Jesus said you must be born again, and he does say this many times in his video presentations. He says redemption is not personal, it's corporate, and nobody should be happy, nobody should be excited, because the redemption will not come until the kingdom is established in Jerusalem. There's going to be a temple. There's going to be sacrifices. This is all false teaching.
Yes, it is. Let me bring something up real quick, Deanne. You know, when you mentioned about this conference that was coming up, and this has a lot to do with what you're saying, I pulled it up just to see when Shapiro and of course Mark Biltz were speaking. It's actually in Colombia. And it may be in Africa as well. Listen to me now. June 1st to the 3rd, Sharit means remnant. All right? This is what Sharit means. It means a remnant. But it is a Jewish, Messianic Jewish Congress. It's in Spanish. Congreso Judeo Messianico Internacional. Okay? This is a 2019 remnant. The Jewish, Messianic Jewish Congress International are meeting. Now here's the danger that people may not realize. It was the Jewish Congress that signed the Nostra Aetate that united Catholicism with Judaism. Mm-hmm. I was being told before they ever signed it, when Lori...
Well, I think they signed in 1980.
Hang on.
80, so what was it?
No. You don't understand. The 50-year anniversary is when they signed the actual declaration by the Jews, signed it. They put together this long ago, but at the 50-year anniversary, that was actually signed, and the Vatican and Israel became as a one entity together. Wow. But who signed it? The Jewish Congress was the one that actually signed it. They're bringing about a unification of all the different religions of the world under one umbrella, and they're putting them under Talmudic Judaism. Now we have here the remnant, the Sharit, this conference, but they're calling this the Messianic Jewish Congress.
Wow.
Now we have just like what you just said, Deanne, it is under as this Rabbi Shapiro is trying to tell the world, that you do not have redemption except through Israel's redemption. In other words, not through Christ, not through Yeshua, not through Jesus.
He says it. That's what he teaches.
And what are they doing? Now, Lori, if you remember, Lori came to me and told me I had to keep my mouth shut. I was causing a lot of problems on them signing the Nostra Aetate, which she didn't give me the name at the time. And she'd already told me, look, Steve, we brought you in. We felt like with the gift you had, you'd be a great asset to what we were doing. And we put you with big names. Mark Biltz is who she was talking about. Mm-hmm. All right, and here Mark's going down here. They wanted me a part of their, I guess, the Sephardic Jewish Congress, because I am a Sephardic Jew. And here we have now, we're seeing another created government messianic entity like the Jewish Congress, and they're bringing them all together. And of course, on their website, I'll just show you, like Deanne was saying, hang on, I'm going to get this thing to work right. It is about $140 to go there to be able to enjoy it. No, it's $140. It's
something
not.
Was
that's in Colombian money.
Oh, okay.
Joshua Aaron will be singing, very well known. He's got a beautiful voice, wonderful singer there. But when you get down here to the those speakers in here, and it's a little slow coming up here, but it's going to pull them up here in just a second. We have Mark Biltz, Itzak Shapira, Samuel Del Caso Roman, Stephen Bernstein. Bernstein, I believe, is how they call his name. And then you have Ezekiel Italki, and Raul Rubio, I guess, is a local Jewish Messianic pastor there. So they are working on bringing in all these religions. And of course, the thing is, as I've been told through intelligence sources that I've been involved with over the years, the infiltration within all these religions. I mean, I was told by one of these infiltrators, that they were a Jesuit.
Right. It is just, shocking. It doesn't stop shocking me day from day. Sister, as you told me, you study for 10, 11 years and you get shocked still from everything you're reading. But anyway, I want to come back to Sister Deanne because I want her to explain the Leviathan and the 6 transmigrations.
Okay, Leviathan is, he is called the holy, sacred, or kosher serpent.
Wow.
Now, I do have I've got a quote in there. I can't get to it right now, but it's in there. It's in the book. It says, this secret was, this was kept secret for, I think, millennia, and to understand it, you've got to be initiated into the secret. See, going into this mystical state, this altered state of consciousness, they ascend up this Sephiroth tree, and then they have these visions or whatever they're doing. I don't go into that. I'm telling you what they do. And the kosher serpent, the serpent in the garden was apparently, they say, Adam's partner to do the final tikkun. He was supposed to help Adam repair the world once Adam Kadmon created Adam. But then he turned evil, but he's coming back, and he's going to help through technology. And the Leviathan plays a very big role. And the transmigration, there again, is reincarnation.
Yes.
Which brings up the city of Neom, the Saudi Arabia, where the Saudis, the Israelites, and the Egyptians are going to make a tri-city state. This is really what they're thinking that this big peace deal will bring about. And the Neom city is an AI, advanced technological city that Israel helped create.
Yeah, and I am actually studying now how Kabbalah is connected to technology, even like this 5G, 6G, and it's going to keep going up till 12G, I believe. I don't want to talk about it yet because I'm in the middle of studying, and I want to bring out how Kabbalah is connected to technology. But it's just mind-boggling. And yes, this Leviathan, or a holy serpent, is supposed to come, right, Sister, like at the end, and they are supposed to have this feast of the beast, like they're supposed to eat the body of the Leviathan.
That's correct. That God is going to make canopies. Is that what you call Sukkot?
Yes.
Out of it,
out of his
and then
skin.
they're going to have the feast.
Yes.
And he's also like the holy. He has something to do with the holy light, but. He is, I named the chapter The Return of the Kosher Serpent because he is supposed to return as man's helper. And they even call him a beast. I've got a quote in there by a rabbi that calls him the technological beast.
So basically their Messiah that is returning is a serpent. It is a Leviathan. And we know what in Isaiah, Sister, you quoted Isaiah. How is Isaiah describing Leviathan?
As the crooked serpent in the sea, and God will destroy the crooked serpent. And it so Leviathan is always something to be shunned, according to Scripture at least, and really only God can handle that kind of beast.
And it says that he's the serpent of the prideful, or
children of pride, the king of pride.
He's the king of Leviathan, is the king of the pride, right?
The children of pride, yes.
The children of pride, yes. Okay, Sister, keep going. What else is in a Kabbalah as far as teachings? You have over here the 2 messiahs of the final redemption, the secrets of millennium.
Yes. Messiah ben Joseph is supposed to, well, there's different opinions. They say Messiah ben Joseph is going to come, but other rabbis say he's working right now, and he's the one that's been working behind the scenes to establish the state of Israel, to bring the Jews back into their homeland. He's the one orchestrating the war with Edom, Ishmael, and the mixed multitude. And they even say that he is Metatron. Yes. So it's just it just runs so deep, and it can be confusing because there are even differences of opinions within all of these different sects of Kabbalah. I was sharing with Steve earlier about the seal and the engravings, and I just think it's really important to connect this to the Noahide laws. This is a quote from the Zohar. Another part of the creation myth in the Zohar is that when Ein Sof was going to create the world, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet went up before him in reverse order. Aleph would be like the letter A in our alphabet, and Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So Tav goes up before the rest. Tav, well, they're female entities. These things are actual living entities. So Tav goes up before the Lord of the world, and she says this, may it please you, O Lord of the world. Now this is from the Zohar. You can read this online. May it please thee, O Lord of the world, to place me first in the creation of the world, since I am the concluding letter of Emet. That's the word truth, which is engraved upon your seal. They're always talking about these engravings. Ein Sof made the world with engravings, and the seal means mark. And the letter Tav continues, seeing that you are called by this very name, Emet, which is truth, it is most appropriate for you to create the world with me. Then the Holy One said to her, you are worthy and deserving, but it is not proper for me to begin the creation of the world with you, since you are destined to serve as a mark on the foreheads of the faithful ones who have kept the law from Aleph to Tav. And through the absence of this mark, the rest will be killed. Tav is the end of the seal of the Holy One, and it denotes the people who fulfilled the Torah from Aleph to Tav.
Wow.
So Aleph and Tav, and they say they're going to mark on the forehead with the Aleph and the Tav, and another place says they're going to mark on the foreheads at the Battle of Gog and Magog with just the letter Tav, and the letter Tav is made out of 3 Vavs, which is 666.
Right.
It's when you read this information, it's like, no wonder they've kept it secret.
Right.
So I pulled a lot of, Rabbi Shapira does not go into all this in his book. Really, the Lord just used that book as a kind of a springboard for me to go even more into my research and find things out.
That is just totally shocking, because even in the book Jewish Utopia, and you do refer to this book in your book,
speaks of the marks too.
It does speak how they're going to go from city to city marking people's foreheads.
Yes.
Yes.
The righteous or the wicked. Now, with the word emet, you asked me to talk about this.
Yes.
Okay, the word emet is truth. Mm-hmm. And so you've got the aleph at the beginning, the tav at the end, and the mem in the middle. And that's the word truth. If you remove the aleph, that only leaves the word death. Now, I know some of your listeners may have heard of the golem or Golem, the Golem of Prague. It's a story in the Babylonian Talmud how the rabbis were able to create a man from clay to use him as a slave and a servant. And they put emet on his forehead. Wow. And he was like a mindless servant. And then when he got out of control, they removed it and he fell to a pile of ashes. But I was shocked as I was listening to you talk about the Noahide laws on so many of your programs, where I found this. We were talking about how there are the rabbis want to, not just the rabbis, some of our politicians want to defund the United Nations. Right. And I was looking around at some information, and there's actually an organization out there working to do this, and it's called EMET, right. E-M-E-T, Endowment for Middle East Truth.
Right, and they're petitioning governments. I know some, I think, is it Sweden maybe, United Kingdom, America, and they're petitioning governments, and they're meeting in synagogues. It's a Jewish organization, EMET, like the what you just described, how connected it is to Kabbalah. And
to the Talmud and to the Zohar, the very word.
The Zohar. And they want to defund United Nations, dismantle United Nations, and for what purpose? Well, the Sanhedrin, established Sanhedrin in Israel, is asking to transfer the power of United Nations to the Sanhedrin International Court.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's what David Ben Gurion wrote in a interview years ago. I think it was in the late 50s, early 60s, that he predicted that the United Nations would move to Israel, and it would be the court of humankind to enforce all laws.
Yeah, so it looks like they have a design, they have a plan that is specifically designed for this tikkun olam, which for their way of redemption, which is through laws and mitzvot, and for Gentiles it's through Noahide laws and basically service of Jewish people going under the umbrella of rabbis completely.
Yeah.
Which, can you talk about this utopian kingdom of Kabbalah that you, in a chapter 10, you're talking about it? Just tell people, it's just kind of like in a summary here.
And we have about 10 minutes left, but once we get done with that, I would love to get this video played. People really need to hear what Deanne found on this video here with Shapiro.
We are going to give them links so they can listen to the whole thing. You know what's shocking, Sister Deanne? When you are watching this video and just reading through comments, and people cannot catch on what's going on, they don't catch on this, and they're actually happy, and they're saying, wow, because he speaks of Yeshua as a Messiah and even God in flesh, so you think that he's accepting Jesus, the Messiah. So, but he's doing it through Kabbalah and through Talmud and Zohar. And we know that this is exactly what Yeshua exposed, right? He exposed Pharisees, and he said that they don't know his Father. They don't know his Father. And then he says they will accept him who will come in his own name. But they didn't accept him. And I'm afraid, I'm so afraid that, what do you say? We talked about this. What's your idea about, do you think that they're going to actually call their serpent, Leviathan, Messiah, Yeshua, just to confuse the people? Or
the other point that I make, the utopian kingdom, I've got some quotes by Rabbi Higger in there. It's a different kingdom, and it's a different kingdom that Shapira and others are presenting. Jesus said this deception will be it's going to look so much like the truth that if it's possible, the very elect will be deceived. Right.
And that's
so
exactly
we're not, as Christians, we're not sitting here like in danger thinking Islam looks, that could deceive us, or Hinduism, or witchcraft, blatant witchcraft that's, the occult. But a Judaism that looks just like or so much like the Old Testament Judaism, that could do it. And I stress this at the last chapter of my book. Jesus said, he said to Pilate, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight for me, and I would not be delivered over to the Jews." And then Paul said, "Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Corruption cannot inherit incorruption. And it's impossible to enter that kingdom unless you are born again." So the last thing one of the last things the Lord said, and I tell people all the time, if you don't get anything else, if you don't remember anything, remember that Jesus said, if they say the Christ or the Messiah is here or there or in the desert or the secret chambers, don't go.
That's exactly.
Don't believe it.
Yeah.
Don't follow them.
Right, and it's so right in all you say. And one more thing.
And that secret chamber they're trying to bring him through is Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Kabbalah, yes, through mysticism.
And
through
yes.
Zohar.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, we are in trouble.
This is why I think
Christianity
because the thing is, not everybody will ever go and look at this video. They need to hear a couple of minutes of this.
You can go ahead.
I would like, if I could just say one more thing.
Sure.
I know that I believe it was you, Yana and Steve showed, I think it was Rabbi Tovia Singer was saying that 80 to 90% of converts either to Judaism or Noahide law are coming out of Messianic fellowships. They used to be Christians, and the Bible talks about a great falling away. So the last thing I would like to say, in my research, I think I decoded what the return of the kosher pig is.
Yes.
I was very angry at first. I thought it was, they're calling Jesus a pig, and a lot of rabbis do think of Jesus in those terms. But the Midrash says this. Midrash is part of Babylonian Talmud, and there's a commentary in there, and it says that in the end times, during this footsteps, this period that we're in of this process of redemption, there's going to be a transformational shift where Christians will return back to the law and ordinances, and they will reject Jesus, and that is what will make them kosher. And that's what we see happening.
Wow.
And I don't want to put words in Rabbi Shapira's mouth, but I've heard him say it many, many times. He calls those Christians in his videos to come out of that and come back to Judaism.
Wow, I mean, this
is where it's coming.
Even Book of Revelation right now, the 13th chapter makes so much more sense, sister, doesn't it?
Yes.
It really makes more sense. It cleared it up. It cleared up the mystery, because so many years we've been trying to, who is the first beast? Who is the second beast? And, it's getting really clear, very clear who the beast is. And just by their prophecies, their own tikkun olam, what their redemption is about, the return back to the law. And then, of course, when you Gentile, then you need to go under the umbrella of rabbis and Jewish people. And they're quoting this thing that you're going to go to the skirt of a Jew, and that the law shall come out of Zion. But it's not. They're basically putting all authority on the rabbis. But anyway, go ahead, Stephen, and play this little bit for people.
Let's play this clip here.
Closer to the Lord than we've ever been, yes.
But there is also a warning here. There's another alliance that has to be discussed. In Isaiah chapter 63, the day of the great and terrible day of the Lord, it says that the Lord will come out from a place called Edom, and he will crush Edom. Now, I'm just a broadcaster here, okay? In Jewish understanding, Edom is really talking about the Christianity. Okay, Christianity is called
Say
Edom.
it again.
Christianity is Edom. Okay?
How's that?
And Jesus will crush
It's a
Edom.
rather lengthy explanation, but Edom name was Esav. Edom name in the scripture is Esav. Esav. If you turn the letter Esav, flip them around, you get the name Yeshua. There will be some alliance, maybe a Catholic church, I don't know, between the Christians. When I say Christian, I'm not talking about the true believers, of course. I'm talking about either the Catholic Church and the Islamic world against Zion. That's why Edom will be destroyed. And that's why we need to be very, very careful to make sure we align ourselves properly.
One more time, because you're saying things so fast.
And
Go back and repeat what you said.
Okay, I will explain it to you this way.
Okay, please.
When Moses, when he was brought up, where was he brought up? In Egypt.
Correct.
What did he destroy?
Okay, so we're gonna leave this link, and then of course if you're interested in reading Kosher Pig for yourself, but I really recommend that if you purchase it with the book of Sister Deanne Loper, where
Kabbalah Secrets Christians Need to Know, an in-depth study of the Kosher Pig and God
what we
and the
need to
gods
really,
of Jewish
Stephen and
mysticism.
Sister Deanne, what Christians today, what believers in Jesus Christ need to understand which is a shock to many people, shock to many Christians, is that we really have a need to study, to understand what Kabbalah teaches, what Talmud and Zohar and their own way, what they teach about redemption, so we can understand what's happening, how they're creeping into Christianity and asking, according to them, sister, listen.
They didn't creep into Christianity. They have, for decades, they have steered Christianity and the Hebrew roots, the Messianic groups, into a direction to underneath rabbinical teachers that are not even real Jews.
Right. Over here, I'm going to quote from your book, sister. It says, according to the Zohar, the illumination of the nations and the revelation of Moshiach in Israel will not be an instantaneous event, but will unfold as a gradual process. That's what they're teaching, okay? Based on the mystical timeline of the rabbis, this process began in the year of 1840, and I guess that was the Industrial Revolution, as you said. In a current Netzach Hod paradigm, the left and right pillars of the Sefirot tree, which is a Kabbalah tree, also represents the two messiahs of Kabbalah, the trained Meshechin. These two messiahs are Moshiach ben Joseph and Moshiach ben David. Until recently, the mystery of two messiahs has remained largely unknown outside of Kabbalistic circles, but is now being revealed in small increments to accelerate the final redemption. So this is why they're proselyting everyone to Noahide laws, right? All Gentiles. They can you talk just really briefly, sister, the danger of Noahide laws?
Well, they don't hide it anymore. When I first found out about them, I went to the library in a town near me and read it out of the actual Talmud, and it does say that the greater severity of breaking any one of these laws is death by decapitation. So they're not hiding anything anymore. When you played that quote or that clip from the video, and Rabbi Shapira, it was like he was trying to kind of backpedal a little bit on the Christians being just Catholics. Well, like I said, reading his book kind of pushed me into digging deeper. And it's not just him. I have quotes in my book by other rabbis that say Edom is all Christianity.
That's exactly
It's not
right.
just
That's
Catholic.
exactly right.
That's exactly right. That's what they teach in there.
Yes.
Maybe because he was, on Benny Hinn show, he didn't want to kind of insult.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Right.
as the friend that I have in Israeli intelligence said to me that he's even given me the time frame when the U.S. gets a limited strike by Russia. He said, Steve, whatever you do, don't go near a FEMA camp. He said,
We,
this is
the
Mossad
Jews,
intelligence.
right.
We are going to
Genocide.
genocide in America. We're going to do genocide in America. That's
You
not
know,
by
there's
race,
a
that's
girl
by
on
religion.
YouTube doing videos trying to refute you two about these Noahide laws, but then yet she says at the same time that the state of Georgia has 30,000 guillotines for capital punishment. Now, what state needs 30,000 guillotines? And I've heard this rumor going around for years. For like, how many people is the state of Georgia putting to death on death row? It's ridiculous.
We had
Not enough courthouses.
We had independent journalist Pamela Schufert on maybe 3 months ago or 4 months ago, and she spoke personally with army officers who told her face to face that those are being put all over United States, but actually it was Georgia and Montana, I think she said, out of all places. But anyway, sister, thank you so much for coming on, and of course you probably are open to come on some other times if we we can
Love to have her
discuss. We
back.
would love to have you back. I'm sure we didn't say it all in 1 hour that is to be said, but thank you. You also sending me a lot of emails and help me with links to find any information on Noahide laws and what everything is connected to it, and I tremendously appreciate you very much. And we just, by the power of Holy Spirit, you caught on to these things and you wrote this book. And by the way, she is a very good writer. I read the book and she writes it in a very understanding way.
Let me just say this as well, because some people they say, well, why do you promote anything? They're promoting right now all this garbage like the Kosher Pig that is sending people straight to hell. I hate to say it that way, but they are. Right. We need some literature out there like Kabbalah Secrets by Deanne Loper that can help put the true perspective on things. So I do encourage you to buy the book. And I don't say it lightly. I think you need to get it. You need to read it. You need to arm yourself because some very bad things are coming. And it's not even expensive. It's only $9.99 on paperback.
But it is written in a very, you can follow it so easily, understand it. And really you brought up some really deep things in this, book, and really made it clear what Kabbalah is about, and we need this education right now so people don't get deceived into this. Yes. Because you see, I kind of cringe when I hear Michael Brown and Bills and others. I already heard about 2 others, Steve, that tell people on big conventions of 700 people, somebody asked the pastor what he thinks of Noahide laws, and he said he's accepting them and he would accept it, and there's nothing wrong with it. So
now that we've already set the world on fire with it, they're forced to make their stand.
And they're making
and Yeshua
a stand,
said what? He said the bundles will be bound together for the burning.
Yes.
So the little groups are being bound. They're binding themselves together and making their stand. It's time for the believers to make their stand. And Yeshua said, if you stand for me, I'll stand for you before the Father. But if you deny me, which is what's going to have to happen in this case here, you will have to deny the deity of Jesus Christ. And when you deny the deity of Jesus Christ, he said, I will deny you before my Father and his angels. You make that choice.
Yeah, and now my new worry, Sister Deanne and Steve, and everybody listening, is like, after knowing about this return of the Kosher Pig, I worry they're going to name their Leviathan actually Yeshua.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I
wouldn't doubt it. The title of this video tonight is going to be, is there anything kosher about a pig?
No. Anyway. Well, thank you, Sister Deanne. We really appreciate you coming on our show tonight.
Yes.
Well, thank you both so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm just so glad to have gotten to know you and to be able to have this opportunity to share. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good night.